अस्सलाम वालेकुम। नवंबर में अमेरिका के सदारती इंतखाबात 2016 होने जा रहे हैं और इस लिहाज से ये साल काफ़ी हंगामा खेज़ भी है इलेक्शन के हवाले से। तो मेरे साथ इस वक्त मौजूद हैं अमेरिकन कॉन्सुलेट लाहौर के कौंसल ऑफिसर स्टीवन जे विल्जर। उनसे बात करेंगे और उनसे जानने की कोशिश करेंगे कि किस तरीके से नए वोटर्स और वो वोटर्स जो दूसरे ममालिक में हैं नेट के ज़रिए से अपना वोट कास्ट कर सकते हैं और इस सदारती इलेक्शन के अमल में पूरी तरह शामिल हो सकते हैं। अस्सलाम वालेकुम, हाउ आर यू? So please tell me about the process. Who can be voter, especially who can cast a vote while sitting in Pakistan or while living in Pakistan?
Any U.S. citizen has the right to vote, whether they're living in the United States or overseas. So we estimate that there are around maybe 15 to 20,000 U.S. citizens living just in Punjab, and any of those are eligible to vote if they are at least 18 years of age.
Okay. So what will be the procedure for casting their vote, and how there are certain stages that he can or she can be part of this voting?
That's exactly right. The first thing that someone needs to do if they're interested in voting is to register to vote, first of all. In the United States, voting is done by each individual state. So each state has its own regulations on how someone can vote. So it's difficult for me to explain all 50 states. We have a website that will explain each state, how you register, how you receive your ballot, and how you return it. But the basic procedure is that you register to vote, and then you request an absentee ballot. So that's a ballot for someone who's actually not physically present in the state where they would normally vote. Once you receive that in the mail, the person who will be voting will complete the ballot and then return it. So that's the first way to do it. There's a new procedure that you mentioned since 2010, it's been around, which allows you to do what they call a federal postcard application. So this way you don't reach out directly to your individual state, but you submit a federal postcard. And this not only registers you to vote, it also requests your absentee ballot. So it's a little bit more streamlined process, but you can still actually reach out to your individual state also. So you can do it both ways.
So this is available in Pakistan and other countries as well?
It's available anywhere in the world. Anyone who's living outside of the United States, whether they're outside studying or in the military or working, anyone can vote. And that's even for Pakistanis, Americans who might have lived here their entire life. 37 states right now allow, because sometimes people ask questions, well, what if I've never lived in the United States? I might have been born there and then I left when I was a child, or I might have been born in Pakistan but was granted citizenship. 37 states allow U.S. citizens who never lived in the United States to vote. It depends on where your parents lived when they were in the United States, or even if you had legal guardians. So I can't say that 100% of the time that if you've never lived in the United States, you can vote, but 37 out of the 50 states have procedures in place to allow people who have never lived in the United States but still have a U.S. passport to vote.
So how are you are contacting, or you are creating contacts with those people who are what's the procedure?
The best thing I can tell you to do is visit the website, because like I said, each state is individual and they will have individual requirements. If you are living in Pakistan right now and you used to live in the United States, say you lived in New York or California, typically you will register where you had your last address. Or if you own property in the United States, you will register where you have your residence. So if you lived in the United States 10 years ago and the last place you lived was in Chicago, then most likely the logical place for you to register to vote would be in the state of Illinois. Mm-hmm. So you always want to use those as your main things. But you do have to have some place to call home. Mm-hmm. You can't just register for a federal election, because it is done by the states. So that's the one tricky thing that people need to work out. So if you were born in Pakistan, for instance, but your parents had lived in Florida, okay, then if Florida is one of the states that allows you to register to vote, even if you've never lived in the United States, then through your parents you would use Florida. But again, this information is all available online.
So that diversity remains even in the electoral system?
I mean, most states have moved towards completely electronic systems, but not all of them have. Most states you can register to vote and request absentee ballots online. Some states still request that you print off and complete a ballot and sign it and mail it in. But most states are getting a little more tech savvy on it, but I can't promise that everyone is.
So votes for the voters staying in different countries. This was even practiced well before 2010.
Oh yeah, you've been able to vote overseas for a very, very long time. Things are better now because, like I said, in the past you had delays in postal systems and you had delays in getting ballots. So you had people sometimes that would try to vote, and just because of circumstances, it would be more difficult. Now it's much easier to do than it's ever been in the past because a lot of it can be done electronically.
So this is electronic voting, like now applicable even in Pakistan as well.
Yep, it is. Depending on, like I said, depending on the state you're in. If your state is still one that actually has you print out and sign a ballot and return it, what you do once you get that ballot in the mail, you'll give them your address here in Pakistan where you live, and then it will be delivered to you. Once you complete the ballot and seal it, you can then either mail it directly to the United States yourself. Some states, you will have to put postage on it from Pakistan, of course. Or you can drop it at either the embassy in Islamabad or the consulates in Karachi or Lahore. So we will accept those ballots for you, and then we will send them back to the United States. So at that point, you just need U.S. postage on it. You don't need to pay for international postage, and you have a much better chance. There's much more certainty that the ballot will arrive in time.
Okay. So anybody who is interested in voting, so that will be specific time for that purpose, that only 15 days, 20 days before?
You need to start thinking about it now because we're about 2 months out from the federal election, which takes place on November 8th. So if you haven't registered to vote already, you need to do it immediately, because if your state is one of the states that still sends a paper ballot, you need time for that to come from the United States to Pakistan and then go back from Pakistan to the United States. So you really want to move on this as quickly as possible. But like I said, one of the ways that we can help you is if you do have a completed ballot is to drop it at the consulate in Lahore or in Karachi or at the embassy, and then we will send those back in a much quicker way than they can go through the regular mail here.
So you have experienced this before, even your own vote?
Yeah, and the other thing that I didn't mention yet, which is if you request a ballot from your state and it doesn't arrive, and you find that it's now October and you haven't received your ballot yet, there is a thing called a federal write-in ballot. So if you're within 30 days of the election and you haven't received your ballot, you can either go online and print off a federal absentee write-in ballot, or you can come to see us at the consulate and we'll help you do that also.
Are the candidates addressing the international voters also?
It's a very good question. I think that all the candidates obviously realize that there are hundreds of thousands of U.S. citizens all around the world, but the primary audience is the domestic audience.
We have to go on a break and we'll be back with this one.
Thank you.
Break पे जाते हैं और break के बाद दोबारा से continue करेंगे. वेलकम बैक. स्टीवन से बात करेंगे इलेक्शन के हवाले से और वोटर्स के हवाले जो पाकिस्तानी हैं ख़ास तौर पर, और वो वोट कास्ट करना चाहते हैं, और इस तरह की डिटेल्स उनसे लेने की कोशिश करेंगे कि जिससे आसानियां पैदा हों पाकिस्तानी अमेरिकन जो वोटर्स हैं अमेरिकन प्रेसिडेंशियल सिस्टम के अंदर. So tell me how the consulate is helping them out to or facilitating them to vote.
Like I said, if people need assistance or they're having problems, they're certainly welcome to contact us. The best place to start is at the Federal Voting Assistance Program website, which is www.fvap.gov. And that's sort of a very, very simple website that will walk you through the various steps that you need to accomplish to vote. So if you have problems there or you have questions, you certainly are welcome to contact us at the consulate. Like I said also, is that once you have your ballot completed, you are welcome to drop it off at the consulate also, and then we will ensure that it gets returned to the United States, to the state that it will be delivered to. So those are the main ways we can help you out.
So in Pakistan, like we in the elections, our country, we keep on holding the election commission holds seminars regarding to attract voters, to encourage to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So what has been, is there any problem like people asking people to come and vote, or the people are more anxious and they are ever ready to, and they are like eager to vote? And
yeah,
vote?
I would say that this year I've noticed already that I probably have had more questions about voting from Pakistanis than I've ever had any place else I've lived. So I think people are extremely interested in this election around the world, U.S. citizens and non-U.S. citizens. So We've encouraged each of them to start the process now, like I've said, and we'll help if we can, if they need any assistance. But there isn't any real problems. It should be a fairly straightforward system for them to do so.
Steve, what kind of response you have got from the people of Lahore and especially the voters?
Well, like I said, we usually see people on a daily basis when they come in to apply for a passport or require some service for us, and that's when people are usually asking about how they vote. I think that as we get closer to the election, more and more people will start thinking about it.
So if you compare it with the last election, so is there a difference in increase or decrease?
I think every election people are interested in. The issues are very pertinent to today, and they capture people. So I think that it is, is this election, gathering more interest? Probably. But I think that every election is important and that everyone should be trying to vote whenever they can. So
to what an extent social media and internet has made your job easier? Or?
It makes it much easier because we have a website obviously for the consulates and the embassy in Pakistan, but we also use social media now to get the word out also. So we will probably in the next 2 months be using Facebook or our Twitter account to get information out so people are aware that they can vote. So we'll be using all of those avenues.
Okay. So whoever is interested in knowing about and wants to have a contact with you in the office so can he or can she?
Yeah, they can go to our website, obviously. That's the best place to start. Like I said, the voting is for U.S. citizens only. So we have a lot of people in Pakistan who are what we call permanent residents or green card holders. And unfortunately, they are not eligible to vote. And you have to be 18 also. So those are the main requirements, basically.
So laws for the voter are different in different states?
Laws for the voting are different, but the procedure might be different from state to state because each state has their own election commission which determines the procedures and rules on how to vote.
18 or above 18
Yes.
can be a voter.
That's correct.
Provided he or she has a certain citizenship over there.
Yep, that's exactly right. And can claim residence in a state.
Okay.
Yep.
So in future, what plans you are going to make it more easier?
Well, I mean, right now I think that the system seems to be working fairly well. We really don't get a lot of feedback that people aren't able to vote. The only time we do get that is when they tend to start the process a little too late. So that's why we're starting now to try to get the word out that you do want to start the process of requesting your ballots and registering as soon as possible because there are obviously delays in getting your ballots back to the United States for counting. So I think that the system is improving every year, and the ease of which for U.S. citizens to vote is getting better and better.
Yeah, and the participation of the people living abroad are.
I think that the people living abroad probably are. I mean, I would think that you probably have a high percentage of U.S. citizens abroad who vote. Sometimes maybe even greater than some people in the United States because they are more aware of some of the issues and more interested. So I think that it's a good representation of overseas voters.
Okay. So before this, you have been working somewhere. Where have you been?
I have worked in. My first post was in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, and then I was in South Africa, Russia, and Botswana.
Okay. So if you compare with these places and now,
well, not everywhere I wasn't living places where there was always an election. So the places that when there wasn't a federal election, people were very interested. During each of the elections that I've been actually working overseas for, there seems to be a real interest in participating and excitement over the results and everything like that. So I think that it's something that people, no matter where you are in the world, we all follow it.
Can this procedure and does this procedure apply to the state elections and the local elections of the U.S. as well?
Obviously, I didn't mention that because we were talking primarily about the presidential election this year, but overseas voters can vote in state elections and midterm elections, and they were also eligible to vote in the primaries for president. The primaries are all completed, obviously, but this is something that, when you have elections in 2 years again, people can also vote at that point. And when you register, depending on what state you register in, you'll have a huge number of other issues that might be on the ballot also. So we tend to spend a lot more attention on this just every 4 years when we elect a president, but voting whenever there's an election is an important thing to do.
Okay, so we have been talking about most of the time about American voters living in Lahore. So what about Lahore? You have been to this place before?
Yeah,
and
well,
since when you are here?
I've been living between Islamabad and Lahore for the last year, and I finally moved down to Lahore about 3 weeks ago. So I'm very happy to be here finally.
थैंक यू। ये जिस तरीके से बता रहे थे स्टीवन के वोटर के लिए आसानियां पैदा की गई हैं अमेरिकन इस साल के जो प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन है इसमें पहले की निस्बत लाहौरी वोटर्स जो अमेरिका में शहरी हैं वो ज़्यादा तुनदही से दिलचस्पी ले रहे हैं और ये दिलचस्पी दिन ब दिन बढ़ती चली जा रही है और ये पिछले कई सालों की निस्बत ज़्यादा है और यही वोटर्स जो वो उनकी एक्टिविटी और उनके इंटरेस्ट को देखते हुए यूँ लगता है कि जैसे स्टेट के इलेक्शंस या दूसरे इलेक्शंस जो अमेरिका में होते हैं उनमें पूरी तरह पार्टिसिपेट करेंगे और इसी तरीके से ये सिलसिला आगे चलेगा।